Hello, I'm Richard Hewitt with Lost Tribes Cafe. I want to talk to you today a little bit about the first chapter of my book, Come Home. So oftentimes globalizers will try and unify everyone and destroy diversity and culture. And sometimes the people on the other side of the spectrum, the diversifiers, they're very divisive and can't hold people together. But I believe God has this method and this way of bringing us all beautifully together in His good book. Through his book, and the concept is really too deep for me actually to understand. But there's a story that really kind of brought this to light for me. One time, I went up to this high mountain village in the Tian Shan Mountains in Kyrgyzstan, and before the Soviet Union, this had been a nomadic kind of landing place for 3 tribes during the winter months. They'd come down together in winter here, and then they'd go up into the mountains, into their different places during the summer with their flocks. And when I got there after the Soviet Union had collapsed in 1995, probably, I got to the edge of the village, met these young men, and I said to the young men, can you take me to the person in this village that knows your culture and your history and your religion better than anyone else? And the young men started to take me to the mullah, the Islamic leader. But before getting to his house, they gathered together and said, you know what, there's actually a man in this village who knows the culture better than the mullah. And they took me to this old man, introduced me to him. We had tea and talked a little bit, talked about his culture. And I said to him, can I take this book and show you this book? And I showed him the script. I call it the script, commonly known as the Bible. And in Islamic culture, it's known as the earlier revelations of Allah, or the Torah, Zabur, and Injil. So I took it out and said, can I read it? Can I show you some passages? And he said, no, I'm not going to touch that book because it's foreign and I don't want to pollute my ancestral line or my descendants and my descendants after me. So he was like afraid to touch it. So I said, okay, well, you've got this God guest tradition where you think God might come walking into your camp and you need to welcome him because you welcome him as God. Could be a stranger, but that's one of the reasons why Kyrgyz are so hospitable. We talked a little bit about the God guest tradition, and I said, this book has the same story. And so instead of letting him touch it and letting him read it, I read it, and I've got dyslexia, so I kind of stumble over some words, and I'm reading about God and 2 angels who come to visit Abraham, and they're going to walk by Abraham's tent, and Abraham calls them and tells them to sit underneath the tree, leaves them there, tells his servants to kill the fatted calf, and tells his wife to make these cakes, and everything he does is exactly like the Kyrgyz do and exactly like the Kyrgyz believe. He even washes their feet. Kyrgyz will wash the hands, but the traditions were just matching up perfectly. And the way Sarah behaves, listening from behind the tent wall, is very similar to Kyrgyz women. So the man, as he's listening to his traditions in this ancient book that he's told is an evil book, he just gets to the point where he has to verify that what I'm reading to him is true. He has to read it with his own eyes. And he actually takes this book that he said he would not touch 20 minutes earlier, and he pulls it from my hands and starts reading from it for himself. And he's just engrossed and captured by it and wants to keep reading. But the story after that goes on to Sodom and Gomorrah. And I had another story that I wanted to show him, so I had to pull it back from him. And then we started talking about the wanderer that the Kyrgyz called Khidr or Khizr. And in Islam, he's often called the Al-Khidr. And so we started talking about him, and if he comes into your village, you're supposed to hold on to him until you get the blessing. And then after talking about him, we read about Jacob and the angel that came walking into Jacob's camp. And Jacob wrestled with him and held on to him until the angel blessed him, just like the Kyrgyz believe they're supposed to do with the Qadr, the wanderer. So it was again this amazing match, and again he had to take the book from my hands, the script, and had to read it for himself. And after reading that, he just said, "Can I have this book?" And I said to him, "No, because I need it as my personal copy. I've got some things underlined and notes in other places, And so I said no. And I think I sent him a copy, or maybe I gave him a copy a few months later. And then after that, maybe a year after that, I went up to the village again, and he came up to me secretly and he said, "That is the best book I've ever read. It's the most amazing book. I absolutely love it." And so this man was obviously having some sort of religious experience, some sort of spiritual connection with God as he's reading this ancient book. And he didn't need to convert. I could stay in my religion, he could stay in his religion, but we had this huge bond. No one needed to convert, no one needed to change, no one needed to be unified or globalized or diversified. We were just sitting there enjoying who we are, enjoying each other, and enjoying this amazing connection. And again, that could happen in Shintoism or Islam or any of the other faiths. He was kind of a mix of Tengir Chalik, the ancient pre-Islamic faith of the Kyrgyz, and more modern Islam, which had come through some Turks and Arab invasions and all over the years and over the centuries. So he had a mix of both, and again, massively connected with this beautiful book. And I believe that book is the true globalizer, which brings us together and maintains our diversity. Again, I don't believe the book is asking us to convert, and I'll go into that in later episodes, because there are some definite sections about conversion, and I think we're living in a different era right now, and I'll explain some of that later. But for now, I just want to present the script. The ancient script is the true globalizer, which respects our diversity. So, all right, God bless you. Bye.